Hi everyone, I'm Joseph from Namsan University. Welcome back to my online class, Beauty Industry Trends and Management. This time, today is the fourth day and fourth week, and so we will run about this. Today's lecture is consists of these parts. The first is how are trends created. So the firstly, we will run about how are trends created, how trends make it. So this part is very important to understand the trend. And second is trend cycle. So trend cycle is it consists of five parts. So please remember about the trend cycle. And third is the key driving forces behind trend formation. And lastly, we will learn about the K-beauty history about 2000, from 2013 to 2024 or 25. So this is the table of content, this part. So please remember about this. Okay, let's get started. The first classes. The first classes is the how are trends created. In other words, the how trends are born and how are trends created. So this part we will run about the uh, how to how to make the trend. Okay, let's get started. The trends are born through a predictable life cycle driven by innovators, the first innovators, and data backed forecasting and algorithm amplification. They evolve as social group, see, adapt, and share ideas, eventually moving from sub subculture to the mainstream. Trends are created through a cycle of innovation, a social contagion, and repetition. And they typically begin with early innovators. So the first is early innovators like design or cultural sub cultures are then picked up by influencers. As the as the trends spread through social media and algorithm and mass market brand, it achieves social proof, making the general public feels the natural urge to participate. Okay, this is the process of the creation for a trend. This is process to make a trend. The first is the observation and forecasting. The the first is the observation and forecasting. It is the trend forecasting agencies like WZ, SN, or Color. Uh, this is forecasting agencies and research agencies, and uh, these agencies analyze the cultural shift and art and consumer behavior. They use data to predict what will be popular 1 to 3 years in advance, guiding major brand on fabrics, colors, and designers. So this is observation and forecasting. So many forecasting agencies and forecasting companies uh, or companies research about the main trend and consumer behavior. So they guide the major uh, changes in advances. And second is the innovators and opinion leaders. Its creators, the tastemakers, and early adopters pick up on these ideas or start them organ, uh, organically through individual expression. And third is algorithmic amplification. The amplification is to it is mean the spread all over the world and all over the social community. So the social media platform such as TikTok and Instagram accelerated trends globally because the TikTok and Instagram and Meta and YouTube is global social media platform. So uh, this social media and social networks uh, make this a trend to amplificated, and algorithms reward engaging, visually satisfying content, creating a self-reinforcing a loop where users see a concept repeatedly. And next for process is information or cascade. People conform to trend to fulfill their sense of belonging and social proof. As a style or behavior become highly visible, people adopt it due to the growing assumption that everyone is doing it. So this step is everyone is doing it, and this process is the trend is spread all over the world and all over the community and society. And this part is the last part. The fifth part is mass adoption and decline. The trend tickles down to the mass market. Once the trend becomes entirely ubiquitous or reaches the record phase, it eventually die out or become the new stage quo, paving the way for the next cycle. So this is the process of creation for a trend. The first is observation and forecasting by the forecasting agency and forecasting company. And second is the innovators and opinion leaders. They accept a trend. The first, so this is that these are the creator and taste makers and the fashion designers, and the the next part is algorithmic amplification. So this step is the trend is spread, begin to spread all over the world. And the next step is information cascade. The people conform to trend to fulfill their sense of belonging and social proof. So this step is everyone is doing it. And lastly is the mass adoption and decline. Okay, let's move on to the next page. And the trends are born through a mix of a grassroots culture shift, creative design experiment, and strategic forecasting. They often bubble up. They often bubble up from subculture or social media, get amplified by forecasting agencies and brands and spread via psychological drivers like the desire or social proof and belongings. This uh, uh, the trend has uh, two way to spread. The first is bottom up, and second is top down. So the first is the first subcultures. New idea often start on the street in the US groups or within niche online communities. So the first is subcultural and second is fatigue. people grow bored of old style or habit, sparkling a sudden desire or completely a different looks or behavior. And third is runways and forecasting. Experts and agencies like a WGSN or a Pantone, and as we can see, the color of this is the uh, research uh, companies and forecasting companies and analyze the cultural movement, art, and music to pre- predict the package shape, moods, or color for major companies. And the spread of the trend is the first is innovator and early adopters. Trendsetters are trendsetters and prominent figures try out new idea first. And algorithmic amplification. Digital platform push viral content repeatedly, creating a loop of high visibility and fast replication. Third is the major follows. All as more people adopt the behavior, it feels safe, normal, and familiar, pushing the late majority to join in before the cycle eventually reset. So this is how are trends created. So please remember about the process of creation for trend. The first is observation and forecasting, and second is innovators and opinion leaders. Uh, The the minor people, but these people are innovator and opinion leaders. And second is algorithmic implication. And so this part is the trend is spread begin to spread. And fourth is information cascade, and lastly mass adoption and decline. So this is very uh, similar with a trend cycle. As you can see, the trend cycle is like this. The first is fringe stage, and second is trendy stage, and uh, the third is mainstream stage, and fourth is saturation stage, and lastly obsolescence. This is disappear and disappear part. So the transformation is the journey of an idea and behavior or pattern from a isolated novelty to widespread cultural adoption. It follows predictably for stage, life cycle, or diffusion. So the fringe emergence, the, the first step is a fringe emergence, and second is trendy. Trend is growth step, and the mainstream is the mass adoption, and saturation is fragmentation or the phase step, and lastly is obsolescence. This is uh, a dramatical decline. So the five stage of trend cycle is the first is a fringe stage, and second is trendy stage, and third is the mainstream stage, and fourth is uh, a saturation stage, and fifth, the lastly is obsolescence. So please remember about this picture of the a trend cycle. Okay. This time, we will learn about the each stage of trend cycle. The first is the fringy staging, the emergence. Uh, this this stage what happened is an innovative idea and behavior or weak signal emerges. Lastly, next class we will run about the signal, a weak signal of trend. So what happened is an innovative idea, behavior, or weak signal emergence. It is often driven by a visionary creator, subcultural, or localizes grassroots movement. Who drives the innovator? The first stage is driven by the innovators and early adopters. And second step is the trendy stage, rise and growth. Uh, so what happened this stage? The idea gained traction. Early adopters such as tastemakers, influencers, and niche communities increase awareness, turning the anomaly into a visual patterns. Who drive it? This is early adopters. The first, the first stage, the fringe stage is driven by the innovators. The second trendy stage is driven by early adopters. And third is the mainstream stage, the peak adoption. This stage, what happened? The trend experiences a widespread acceptance. The general public adopts the behavior or buy the product, and corporations often exploit the growing demand through mass production and aggressive marketing. So this is a mainstream stage, the peak adoption. This part is driven by the early and late uh, majority. And first stage is the saturation and decline, a fragmentation or fade. Uh, what happened in this stage? The market becomes oversaturated. The trend lose its uniqueness, causing the mainstream to eventually become bored or exhausted. It either fades completely or become a permanent cultural staple. This part is driven by the laggards, and the last part is obsolescence. So this stage is the a phase stage. So this trend is began to fade. So this time we have studied about the trend cycle. Please remember about the five stage of trend cycle. The first stage is the fringe stage, and second stage is the trend stage, and a third is the mainstream, and fourth is saturation, and fifth is obsolescence. So this part is the fade down, the trend. Okay. Lastly, we will run about the key driving forces behind transformation. We have studied about the uh, trend cycle and transformation and how to make a trend. So this part is also very important because important to understand trend. So key driving forces behind a trend formation. Uh, Trend formation is driven by a combination of social shift and technological advancement and economic changes. These forces interact to alter consumer preferences, push industries forward, and shape long-term behavior patterns. The key driving forces behind transformation fall into five main categories. The first category is technologically advances, and second is a social cultural shift, and third is economic and political condition, and fourth is environmental pressures, and lastly, the fifth is innovators, influencers, and media. Okay, let's look at the uh, key driving forces. Uh, the first is technological advances. So the first innovation is breakthrough, especially it's like AI and smartphone and renewable energy create entirely new market and possibilities, shaping how people live and work and communicate. So technologically advances is very important part and important driving forces. And accessibility is the mass adoption of technology, especially social media, enable trends to emerge, scale, and travel globally in real time. So, so the first key driving forces is technological advances, and second key driving forces is a social cultural shift, uh, especially demographics, the changes in the population, such as the aging global uh, demographics or the growing influence of Gen Z, heavily dictated purchasing power and cultural likes. Its value is shift in social norms. For example, the rising demand for diversity and inclus- inclusivity and uh, a conscious consumerism. The alter what people uh, prioritizes and support. So social culture shift is also a valuable key driving forces. And third is economic and political condition, policy and regulation. The first is policy and regulation. The government decision and subsidies or taxes can heavily regulate over or jumpstart on entire industry, shifting the market. For example, the U.S. tariff is a very important part of Korea and U.S. Uh, trade terms. So in Korea's exportation, especially to U.S., the tariff the U.S. tariff is U.S. tariff has a very strong impact and strong influence in uh, in these days. So the policy and regulation, especially the main countries, especially U.S. and EU and Europe and Japan, is a very important condition and important part. And macroeconomics, inflation and interest rates and overall market stability impact consumer spending behaviors and business investment. And fourth is environmental pressures and climate changes and corporate responses is also a very important part of uh, transformation. And lastly, the innovators and influencer and media. So innovators, especially early adopters, trendsetters, and content creators actively adopt the promote new ideas, acting as the bridge between a niche movement and mass adoption. And hyper connectivity, globalized flow of information, capital, and people allow trend to be observed instantly and replicated across multiple geographies stimulatedly. This time we will learn about we have studied the key driving forces behind transformation and trend cycle, and how trends are born and how are trends created. So this part is very important to understand the trend. Okay, mm, uh, that's it for these classes. And please remember about what we have studied. And see you next classes. Bye.